ready? Hey everybody, welcome back to Is It Kino, your favorite movie review podcast. I'm your host, Simeon Jimmy, joined as always by a rogues gallery of boss baby fanatics. Let's just go down the horn. Who do we have here?
People of YouTube, it is I, Emperor Lemon, back again with another film review for which my channel is most well known. Today we're going to be talking about film coming out of DreamWorks Animation. I think originally scheduled for last Christmas because it was like a Christmas movie.
This is a long introduction.
Coming out July 2021, The Boss Baby 2, Family Business something...
Family Business.
Family Boogaloo, I think.
Family Boogaloo? I see.
So that's your name?
Yeah.
I'm just the Kino Corner.
Alright, I'm the Egg Man, otherwise known as Big Yolk, otherwise known as Toby, bringing you the latest and greatest.
And I'm the Gamer from Mars.
And we all went out last night, popcorn in hand. I think we got a few drinks in us.
And some corn dogs.
Yeah.
I had Raisinets stuffed into my pants,
And we
not
went
in the pocket.
We went and saw Boss Baby 2 at a 9 p.m. showing here in Florida, and I've got to say the Florida audience experience really made this movie something special. Just to begin, I would like to remind you all of the man in the front row of the theater who was watching YouTube videos on his phone
Full volume.
out loud. Nobody said anything, and for 10 minutes he watched his YouTube videos uninterrupted, and nobody really gave a shit.
I feel it was longer than that because we just got to scenes where it was loud, so it over.
Yeah, that's
That's true.
Like if we were watching A Quiet Place Part 2, I could just imagine.
I want to say, though, really about it. So basically, the quiet parts of the film where he was like watching Markiplier was like reacting to a TikTok on his Reddit page or whatever it is, whatever these kids watch nowadays. But so it's like the scenes where like the father, because this is Boss Baby 2, so it's there's continuation from the first Boss Baby. So like the baby and his brother have grown up. Now the Boss Baby's
Spoilers,
brother.
by the way, for people who
Oh, yeah.
haven't seen it.
Well,
we go into spoilers on this show. It's okay.
Yeah.
We do all spoilers on Is It Kino. But so he's like, there's parts where it's all quiet, then all of a sudden it was just like this. So it almost was realistic, because it was like you would think maybe they had like YouTube on somewhere in the house, because it was like the house was quiet. But I know I like to watch YouTube when I go to bed, so it really drove a very realistic, like fourth wall breaking aspect in the film to me right there.
Do you think the filmmakers are sending somebody to each showing to play videos on their phone to enhance the experience?
I mean, they definitely should. I mean, for such a high traffic area as Florida, they definitely would. Some of those other places like Iowa where nobody really lives there, I think they're just inventing the horse and the buggy right now, so probably not as worth it in those markets. But Florida, though, I could definitely see it.
That might have just been in the sound mix, and there was no person watching a YouTube
That
video.
could be it too. The guy editing got bored and started playing games on his phone, and it got recorded in the final product.
Hey.
Well,
Touche.
Emp Lemon, as far as I know, is the foremost child cartoon fan of the panel. So let's start with you. What did you think of The Boss Baby 2, Boss Harder?
Well, The Boss Baby 2 exceeded my expectations. I thought it was just going to be a total shit show, a bunch of fart, poo, like a Minions movie. But I actually like this movie more than Pixar's Onward, which was, I think, the last kids animated movie I saw in a theater.
Yeah, that was like the last movie I saw in a theater before coronavirus shut everything down. It was like March.
To piggyback off of
you're
what?
seeing literal children's films in theaters by yourselves.
I went with people.
To piggyback off of Emp, I was also pleasantly surprised. I had not seen Boss Baby 1, and I think a few of you guys have also not seen it.
Yeah, I've only seen the meme where it's the Boss Baby's face over the Nas album.
So I did not know what Boss Baby was even about heading into the sequel, and I've always been under the impression that Boss Baby was just a cheap jab at Trump, because they got Alec Baldwin who plays Trump on SNL, and it's like, oh, he's a baby, but he thinks he's the boss, but I'm guessing that's not what the movie is about.
Correct.
It's like your typical sort of DreamWorks. It hits like all the beats, right? It's about family, it's about brotherhood. There's some kind of weird plot to take over the world that sort of gets mixed up into it, and there's that little twist.
Well, from what I understand, the main character, who was a kid in the first movie and is now an adult, just has an overactive imagination, and all the events of the film are just his
No, but
interpretation of the world.
No, but it
implies
goes
it's real.
against that. It implies it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, because...
But the opening scene of Boss Baby 2, he goes into like, oh, when I drive a car, I pretend it's a race car, and when I'm hanging out with my kids, it's like a samurai thing. So I imagine this is all just in his head. Right?
No, this is encouraging kids to be imaginative. It's saying you
Yeah.
need to have imagination. Also, there's a little baby that's creating an app for your phone that's going to take over the world.
Yeah.
Because it's going to hypnotize your parents. And I think that, like... This kind of falls into that trope of like, it's almost like that Stephen King book that they turn into that shitty movie Cell, where it's like they have the cell phones and the aliens like send the signal, and all the people who are on their cell phones get turned into zombies. And it's pretty much the same
Sounds
thing.
like real life, am I right?
It's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, people who are on their cell phones all the time, aren't they just like the modern day versions of zombies? It's a literal zombie apocalypse. And except in this one, the app that makes them into zombies is some sort of like Tinder for babies.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even joking. It's called like Cutie Swipe or Cutie Snap.
Yeah, which for some reason, I mean, that is a little bizarre because basically it's like based off of Snapchat, but there's some sort of like rating system
Yeah.
for like the most superior children. Like if you have some like weird blurry kid, they're just probably gonna die. They're just gonna like throw them in a dumpster somewhere.
And they were
you know?
swiping left and right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
they're like,
there's a shot.
this
They're like,
kid's a good kid. This kid sucks. Like, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's probably a higher class neighborhood. They're out there. They're, I mean, the budgets. It's pretty much the school that they're at is like some very special school. It's like so special that in fact this plays into the film that it's actually sinisterly good.
Yeah.
They have a whole virtual reality like island vacation that
plays
is like for detention. Yeah.
yeah, the
They have
place-
the Amazon wage cage integrated into the school.
yeah.
So it just goes to show that probably in this neighborhood they go around to children and stamp them right on the skull with some sort of rating system. They basically have a caste system built into Snapchat for babies. It makes sense to me.
It almost seemed like like some sort of jab at like Montessori schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got that too.
Yeah, because it's like the whole like feeling behind the school. I was like, oh man, this is like Montessori, but just made into some sort of cartoon villain, sort of.
It's a
thing.
complex commentary on how the individualistic values of society are devaluing communal aspects.
I like how they show a junkie at a very young age, and it just shows that like it's really bred into people that addiction to things is genetic, and you had the glue sniffer baby, the glue sniffer and glue eater, and I was like, wow, this is actually like it says a lot about society.
I'll say that the movie, while surprisingly funny, and I think all of us were laughing, rip roaring in the theater, it feels like every element of the story and the characters is kind of like the TV dinner version of, a good show. Like, for example, the plot about how in the classroom they were ranking the kids based on how many questions to get right, and he has like the whole graph up. That was just ripped from an episode of Malcolm in the Middle, like straight up. And I feel like everything I recognized in this movie as, a lesser version of something else that did it better. So really, Boss Baby 2 seems like just you take all the shit and blend it all together to make a somewhat okay smoothie of a film.
Well, here's the thing about Boss Baby 2. There was no business in it.
Yeah.
It's family business.
That was my problem. Like, the mission in the movie, it had nothing to do with business. It was take down the bad guy of the week.
Yeah, it was like a spy thriller.
It was more like a
Yeah.
heist James Bond type plot instead of just, I guess, the Wolf
Yeah.
of Wall Street.
Does the first
baby.
movie have a business plot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the first movie,
It was-
so maybe
it was-
we should have watched it first.
I
It
would
was a
say that,
heist.
yeah.
It was a heist thriller, right? In which there's a weird relationship between the father and his daughter.
Well, they're just kind of growing apart. She's growing up, and he doesn't
And
like
so, well, no, so he becomes basically her age, and then he's just like being like, oh, I'm so proud of her, and then she gets a crush on him, and that's when
Well,
she's
that's
like,
good.
oh, I said things to him when she figures out that it's her dad.
Yeah, there's a little bit weird incestuous themes.
Well, that was just like Back
in
to
the
the
show.
Future did that too.
Yeah, I'm saying it's very mythical, actually. If you think about it, this is obviously them trying to integrate Greek myth. into
Every
Boss Baby.
Edited still
7-year-old girl wants to fuck their dad. That's a Greek myth.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's like basically the
That's
mirror
probably why they
version.
went extinct.
It's the
They're kind of
mirror.
weird over there.
It's the mirror version of Oedipus, you know.
It's like
so you just
the Electra
gender swap.
complex.
It's the progressive. Yeah, it's a progressive version. You know, it's a gender swap.
Very
So-
progressive movie.
Yeah.
I didn't like the character design for the dad because he looked. You couldn't tell what age he was. He looked
and
like
you couldn't tell what gender he was.
He looked like Nathan. He looked like Nathan Kress in the new iCarly reboot.
I
He was
gotta
just like
speak this real quick here
teenager
because
with like Lego hair.
So as for me, I'm not sure. You saw the first Boss Baby?
I've not seen the first
So none of you guys saw. I saw it all. I've seen. I saw both of them. First Boss Baby, I also felt was good film, but I do believe that it would be beneficial to watch that one first because it does lay more of the groundwork for the whole aspect and the whole concept of babycore, which is referenced a lot in the second movie, but you don't get the sort of very vast description of everything to do with that as you do in the first film. But when I started watching the second movie after enjoying the first film, like in the first 5 minutes, the husband, he seems like a nice enough guy, but it seems like he's kind of a bit timid and meek, and he doesn't work. His wife works, and she's like a proud, like shining glass ceiling breaking woman. Like he's there hanging out with his kids, and they've got like a lot of. She has Ruth Bader Ginsburg slippers like that are like the shape of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's head, and there's like a lot of very like positive like female first.
He sleeps in the
like
attic by
posters.
himself.
And, he has a bed in the attic by himself for some
the
reason.
The movie has big cuck energy for the dad.
So to start off,
he does
it
have his
seems
own
kind of
bed
like
in the attic.
it kind of seems like that there might have been her boyfriend might have shown up at any minute, pretty much.
The implication of the scene was that he went up in the attic to play with his dolls while his wife gets railed downstairs by Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. It's a little Virgin versus Chad.
Very
material.
much so, yeah.
And we're not making this up. Like throughout the movie, his own kids are saying, "Oh, Uncle Boss Baby is so much better than you,
You have
Dad.
these,
He's
like-
the real Chad of the family."
When the Boss Baby, who's grown up now, and he's like a big billionaire CEO, he like shows up he ignores all these people all the time, and he happens to show up for like one very particular reason that was orchestrated like through plot points, and he shows up and he like kneels down to get a kiss from his niece, and like the dad is like he's like staring and like her lips are like going to his cheek. She's like, "I love you, Uncle Ted," and then he has like flashbacks to like his family like
Vietnam.
like ignoring him and like basically treating him like they're above him. So like there was these certain things that were just, it was kind of a little bit bizarre, but I guess although that like the framing initially was like, well, where are we going with this? It all kind of came to be towards the end that by him being reduced back to a child and having to like go through this scheme of fighting the villain or whatever, it sort of broke down those hang-ups that he had with his family and kind of allowed him a different perspective to see like where he was having the disconnect. And so all well that ended well, but yeah, like the whole like setup for it was just like, what's going on here? Like it felt like it really could have gone any way for a minute, but yeah, that was just my thoughts on it as it was going on.
So I think the message, the moral of the story is that even though we might grow older, we don't have to grow up.
Right.
Because
We don't have to grow apart, maybe.
and we don't have to grow apart. I mean, but he does. Like, he's a man baby at the beginning, he's a man baby at the end, and he's a baby in the middle. Because he goes right back to playing with his dolls in the attic. Like, that's the sad truth.
Well, the movie never framed that as being a bad thing, even from the beginning.
Just remember, if you're like a pathetic adult and you find yourself getting cucked by the world around you, the solution, as pointed out by Boss Baby 2, is to revert to a literal child. And we have an actual instrument in real life
Go
that
on
can
a
do
date
that.
with your child.
It's called the Nintendo Switch, where you don't need a magic wizard or magic powers or anything. Just buy a Switch and you can live the life of the protagonist in Boss Baby 2.
People on TikTok are sharing their experiences with the Switch and are sharing how happy it makes them. I would definitely advise going and watching all of them.
The part of the movie that made me the most uncomfortable is that the dad has a baby daughter who is voiced by Princess Carolyn from BoJack Horseman.
Same character, too.
Yeah.
It's the same.
She talks like with the same tone and all that, but she keeps calling him daddy. And I think
With a grown woman's voice coming out of a baby.
I think the internet has ruined the word daddy for me, because when I hear this 50-year-old woman keep saying, daddy, daddy, come here, daddy, like, it made me kind of sick to my stomach. Maybe that's just me. But when I see this little baby with an adult mouth.
Too many TikTok cringe compilations with women, wearing unfitting costumes and saying things into their cameras. Too many Discord chat logs that we've all had to go through.
Yes.
through the weekly expose of the average, what do they call it?
Melee player.
Internet niche micro celebrity or whatever. All these manner of things. But I will say, beyond that.
There was one part where she said, that was so good, daddy, and I just rolled my eyes. Like, they had to have known what...
Well, you know that they knew.
Like,
I don't know,
I think they were just hoping that the demographic of the movie wouldn't see it.
But
die.
that was so good, daddy? Just cut out the daddy part.
Yeah. I think that, like, they knew. Come on. Like, these people are more perverted than anybody else on the planet.
They're animating sexy babies. Like, they're doing scenes where the babies are doing sexy poses. What the fuck? Why? Why is there a sexy baby in this movie?
Let's look
I
at
didn't
who
see anything
funded
sex
this.
provocative there. I don't know what you were looking
I don't know
at.
what you were looking
Oh, you guys didn't think that baby was sexy? That's just
I don't really know what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
It's the poses that they were putting them in that was just like, why? This is gross.
Well, I mean, I don't know, because I mean, obviously, like the idea behind babycore is that, like, basically there's a certain amount of babies that are going to be like the rulers of the world. Like, they're the boss babies.
Like the NWO.
And so they have the higher
Bogdanovs.
intelligence, and so, I mean, they're going to expect them to maybe be doing, like, backflips or whatever type of things they have going on. Like, I mean, all the other babies were just, like, walking around, like...
Sniffing glue.
Yeah, sniffing glue. And, well, except for that one, there was, like, some weird, like, freakish, like, deformed girl that could, like... She was, like, teleporting. I don't know what the hell was up with that.
Yes.
It's not implied that there was, like,
was...
anything special about her, but she was just, like... Her face was, like, stretched out on a horizontal plane.
You know what she was like? She was like the girl from the first Fear game. Just, like, shows up.
She was like the girl from The Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, the world building, it's kind of similar to Codename Kids Next Door, but taken to, like, a super extreme extent, where these kids are like the NWO and they're running the world. And so, like, the reason your Bitcoin goes down is because it's not Bogdanov. It's like these babies are just choosing to dump it. And they control the global supply of money and all the celebrities.
If you watch the first one, they even go deeper into that.
Oh, really?
Oh, no.
So this is also the thing that kind of gets me about this movie. And maybe this is me being a little bit like... maybe a little bit like Maul, or maybe a little bit like one of these Doug Walker types. It's like, that doesn't make any logical sense. But why are families sending babies to school, and they're obviously like under one?
I think it was a daycare.
Well, it's part of the school.
Because those kids look like they were in...
They looked like they were in some kind of
grade.
insane asylum. It was like you start off with the baby insane asylum, and then you make your way up through.
Well,
school.
I think that this is from a cursory glance because I don't have a child that I've looked into these programs, but I believe that they have, if there are these certain schools where there's sort of, you have the more one-on-one training and that's supposed to be like better for the child, I think they generally will have sort of a like jump start for the like 3 to 4 year old children,
No, but,
sort
like,
of get them
these
in
kids
the,
were, like-
in the mix.
they looked like they were younger than
Like
18
less,
months.
like literally less than
They
1 year
were in
old.
diapers.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I
like-
mean, when you think about it, yeah, that is bizarre. I think there were some continuity or some sort of issues in like putting that together, but
Well, I
yeah.
can see a Montessori school having a daycare for babies in it.
They just have like a hospital, be like, all right, how much money do you make? Oh, that much, and then there's just like a big like tube, and you just like drop the newborn in, and it goes right into the IQ enhancement cage.
Well, this is one of these things like Cars, where the world building is like so ridiculous that I actually like it. Where it's not like they don't pretend everything to be realistic. Even the animation of all the characters, it's very cartoony, Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers type. Just stuff appears out of nowhere. People just fall from great heights. And there's a bunch of explosions and stuff. No one ever gets hurt.
There were multiple police officers that got hit by about 30 tons of snow, and they never came back. I'm pretty sure they were literally dead. And a politician too. So I mean, I would like to say I think that Baby Corps is really an anarchist organization because I don't think they're accredited anywhere that I know of, because I mean, who would? And they're out here, they've got at least a few law enforcement individuals and politicians that seemingly have been murdered in just fits of blind rage.
Presumably the cops are on their payroll.
Well, no, or as this movie also illustrates, is that there could be babies among us.
Amogus.
Among us, because the main character, played by Jeff Goldblum, you think is an old man, but in reality, he's a baby in a robot.
He's in like a big mech.
Yeah,
high-tech mech outfit.
Yeah, it's basically like Baby Gundam is what's going on. And people think he's an old man, but he's actually the one pulling the strings for the takeover so that babies can rule the world. But the problem is, it's like what happens in like 5 years, or, you know, like...
When he grows up a little bit.
When he grows up 1 year.
Yeah, when he grows up 1 year. Is he just going to pass the reins? All right, you're starting your communist revolution now. Are you just going to give the power to the people, Stalin? I mean, I know this is
Let's
Stalin,
give all the power to the babies in the world. Oh no, I'm not a baby.
Well, yeah, just when he starts to get the government, up and running and everything, he'll be too old. He'll have to step down.
They'll coup him out of power.
And then how will more babies be made?
I think we've covered a lot of the main issues. Does anybody have anything pressing that they really want to mention before we end, or should we go and say whether or not the movie was Kino?
I say we say whether or not the movie was Kino.
Okay, Amp, let's start with you and work our way down. Was this movie Kino, and would you recommend it?
You know what? Boss Baby is a local legend. In the future, I think we may look back on Boss Baby as something like Shrek, where it's like a cultural icon. The premise is kind of dumb and wonky and awkward, but it's just so confident in its bombasticity, where I admire the fact how the film, the Boss Baby cinematic universe, owns how ridiculous it is. So I will say I put my vote towards Boss Baby 2 Kino, 100%.
I'm a little upset that you would compare it to Shrek, but, that's neither here nor there, I suppose.
So, Em says it's Kino. I'm going to have to go in the opposite direction. I had to have the palate cleanser after this, and actually right before we came in to record this, I just to kind of set my mind right, I had to rewatch the shit-eating scene from Sallow.
And you showed it to Rusty's girlfriend.
And I showed it to Rusty's girlfriend. And she said, yeah, this seems like a movie I would like. So, I got another one. I'm slowly spreading the word
Another
of Sallow.
woman has come to Kino.
Another woman has come to Kino, and we'll watch Sallow. No.
You're saying it's not Kino?
No, I'm saying it is. I'm saying Sallow's Kino.
Yeah, but Boss Baby's
Oh yeah,
not.
but Boss Baby 2 is not. I would definitely say Boss Baby 2 is not Kino. It's like the most like average. Like you're gonna forget about it the second you leave the theater. I would have forgotten it if we hadn't had to do this this podcast. I don't know if I could like recall anything other than Jeff Goldblum sometimes being funny in it. But yeah, I would say it's not Kino.
I'm a little on the fence because I enjoyed my time in the theater, but that's also mostly because I was with a bunch of internet D-list celebrities, and there was a guy watching YouTube videos on his phone, and that was very funny.
There was a woman yelling at the screen that had some mental problems.
Yes, that is very, like the stereotype of black people at a horror movie yelling like, "Oh, look out behind you!" That was happening during this movie, but with Boss Baby characters.
That adds to the experience.
Yeah. So I would say if you're gonna see it in a Florida theater in a bad part of town with a whole bunch of friends. Otherwise, it might not be worth your time. It defied my expectations, Kino, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. So, having seen both Boss Baby films, I will say that I did enjoy the film, and I have an agreeable view of it. It is something that I think that I would sit down and watch both of the films with my family. I think that it's got... The writing was decent, for sure, I would say. I would say that there was not really any point where the writing was too disagreeable for me. I felt that the pacing and a lot of the things that were with the film were good. I would definitely give it an above average overall, and I would say that I would find it to be Kino. And I will say this also, too. I feel like that also... as part of the climate in films lately, I haven't really seen a lot of films in recent years that have stood out to me as like really above and beyond. So for like the Shrek comparison, for instance, I don't know if the Boss Baby franchise has quite that sort of same long-lasting charm by any means, but it is definitely a very solid film, and I would definitely say it's an enjoyable film. And with that being the case, I give it a thumb up. Kino.
I would say it's Kino too. It's a generic DreamWorks movie, but at the same time, the concept is so memeable that it'll live on in internet memory.
All right, that's
Well,
4 votes for Kino.
how can
one
you say
vote for
that
not
it's
Kino.
how can you say it's Kino and then say it's generic?
Well, the script for this one is, but I just say the overall universe. is
The
more
premise
Kino.
alone is Kino.
Yeah.
As far as theatrical memes go, it is Kino.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So the consortium has voted 4-1 in favor. Boss Baby 2. Kino
Officially
Experience.
Kino, that's right.